Rutted Reviews, and Merry Christmas Eve to everybody out there as we continue on with the 24th door of our 2020 Advent Calendar of Christmas horror movies. This time we're going to be taking a look at the penultimate entry in this series, the 2020 movie, The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Written, directed, and starring Jim Cummings as Deputy John Marshall, the lead character in this. He's not the sheriff of this little town, but he's getting there. His father is the sheriff, and it looks like there's going to be a little bit of a patriarchy, hierarchy going on as his father is leaning into his twilight years. And in this little town of Snow Hollow that he protects as one of the members of law enforcement, something starts happening that's a bit peculiar. Well, in the form of a murder at any rate. Murder itself being a somewhat peculiar entry in this whole town, being a small town with not a whole lot going on. But the fact is that this murder is above and beyond extraordinary because although it has the ferocity and so forth of an animal attack, by all accounts it looks like it was done by something that was able to have opposable thumbs and articulation and intelligence representing a human being. Furthermore, some pieces of the victims were found missing, and not with necessarily surgical precision, but definitely with a bit of a purposeful nature to it. This all starts a whole big rumor mill in the town that John has to squash and quell while also trying to investigate what in the hell is actually going on here before more victims turn up, and of course they do. And his family situation is even more complicated than his father being of the age of retirement. He has his daughter that's going to be moving in with him for a short while after living with her mom for a bit. They've been separated for a little while now, and the situation is a little bit tense, plus all this is going on. Plus, he is a recovering alcoholic, actively going to meetings and struggling to keep his sobriety in check while undergoing all this stress. The whole thing is mostly just a big character study in John Marshall and the people surrounding him, and the way that it was portrayed by Jim Cummings is honestly one of the big selling points of this movie. The dialogue in this was razor sharp, but his delivery was spot on, and it was really the kind of thing where you can absolutely tell that he got the best performance out of himself because he had the absolute clarity as both the writer and the director exactly how he wanted this character to come across. And putting himself in all three roles, he was able to pull that off with perfect synergy. There's a level of wryness and a level of dry humor in his verbal attacks as the town undergoes its transformation in the light of these murders, and that might not be to everybody's taste. I've seen this movie be a little bit divisive, and I've even seen people put this on some of their best of 2020 lists to it, and I can see where they're coming from, but for me, I found not quite so much. Don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy this. I thought it was a very original, very unique take on the whole notion of, let's just call it what it is, werewolves. It's almost in the title and my description, even though it was spoiler-free, kind of connects the dots. So it was an interesting take on the whole werewolf genre, and for me, that's something that doesn't get a whole lot of love. So the fact that it was actually able to approach it and have some creativity and originality to it was something that I tip my hat to. However, here's my big issue with this movie, is even though I really did enjoy each individual component of it, for being a movie about werewolves, this really kind of struck me more as Frankenstein. You see, each individual component of the plot and the story and even some of the characters really did seem to be kind of, well, let's just say borrowed, or at the very least heavily influenced from other movies. And yes, I know that there's no such thing as a truly original story out there. At some point, somebody has done everything, and not every movie can be Twin Peaks: The Return. But I think that there's a difference between being influenced by something and also being able to watch a movie and say, well, this 5 minutes was this movie, and this 10 minutes was this movie, and this ending here was definitely this movie. Being able to identify very particular components with their movie counterparts just really kind of made this seem to be a little bit of a mishmash, and I'm going to be honest, for me, although I did enjoy those individual components, and taking aside the notion that they were heavily influenced from other movies, that doesn't necessarily always mean that they're going to gel well together. And that was my major issue with this film. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the thoughtfulness, I enjoyed the sharp writing style that Jim Cummings brought to the board here. I enjoyed how it asked the question of its characters and of the audience, how much is appropriate to give of ourselves in terms of family, in terms of job, in terms of town, in terms of everything when we're our own personal health is on the line across multitudes of characters, it was able to ask this question, and I really enjoyed that. It brings out a level of conversation that I love in movies. All of this I enjoy, but somehow, some way, taking the entirety of it from beginning credits to end credits, I would have to say that although I enjoyed it, it was a movie that somehow wound up being just slightly less than the sum of its parts. But still acknowledging that I did enjoy it and it's just not my best of 2020, I really do have to kind of bring this back around and say once again that I do recommend this. I thought it was interesting, I thought it was thoughtful, I thought the writing was sharp, I thought the characters were well developed. This was worth watching, and it was absolutely worth the time and the rental fee investment. So there you go, that's my recommendation for the 2020 movie, The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Thank you so much for watching this, I really do appreciate it. If you like this, please click like and subscribe. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.